Why dreams feel like a Netflix show. You didn't order. Picture this. You tuck yourself into bed, pull the blanket up like it's a shield against reality, and the next thing you know, you're starring in a full-blown psychological thriller produced by your subconscious. Sometimes it's a horror film, sometimes a rom-com, and occasionally just static nonsense like you arguing with a giant talking bagel about rent. Here's the deal. Dreams feel random, but they're not completely meaningless. When you go to sleep, your conscious mind clocks out, but your subconscious pulls the night shift. It's busy sorting through the chaos of your day, like an overworked intern with way too many sticky notes. Everything you saw, thought, worried about, or ignored gets tossed into the blender, and dreams are the smoothie you end up drinking. The problem is, your subconscious doesn't speak English. It talks in images, feelings, and metaphors, basically emojis with special effects. That's why your dreams can be so bizarre. They're emotional concepts dressed up in wild costumes. Social worker and sleep expert Suzanne Bergman once said, "Dreams are a universal language, creating elaborate images out of emotional concepts." Translation: dreams are like memes your subconscious makes when it can't text you directly. So while science hasn't locked down a definitive dream dictionary, common dream themes do repeat. And that's where the fun begins, because those recurring dreams about falling, fighting, or losing your teeth. Yeah, they're not random. They're your subconscious trying to send you push notifications with very questionable graphics. Number 10, falling. The free trial of gravity. You never asked for. We've all had it. You're drifting off peacefully, halfway to dreamland, when suddenly, bam, your body does that weird jolt like you just tripped over an invisible curb. Congratulations, you've just experienced what scientists call a hypnic jerk. Basically, your brain thinks, "Oh no, we're falling," and pulls the emergency brake. It's the human equivalent of hitting reply all by accident, completely unnecessary, yet it happens anyway. Now why falling? Out of all the things your brain could pick, flying, surfing on a dolphin, winning the lottery, it chooses to throw you off a cliff. The symbolism is pretty straightforward. Falling equals loss of control. Think about it. When you fall, you're helpless. Gravity takes the wheel and you're just along for the ride. In dream language, falling usually shows up when you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or like your life is slipping out of your hands. Maybe it's a crazy workload, maybe it's your relationships, or maybe it's just your Wi-Fi cutting out during a Zoom call. Whatever it is, your subconscious is waving a giant sign that says, "Hey buddy, you're stressed and barely holding it together." And the funny part, your body doesn't just imagine the fall, it acts it out. That spasm, the mid-sleep karate kick, is your primal defense system firing off as if a saber-toothed tiger is about to eat you. So if you've ever kicked your partner awake during a falling dream, don't worry. You're not broken. You're just ancient software running on modern hardware. Number 9, being chased. The Olympic sprint. You didn't sign up for you're in a dream. The sky is dark, the street is empty, and suddenly, bam, you're sprinting like you've just been cast in a low-budget horror movie. Behind you? A monster, a murderer, maybe even your middle school math teacher. No matter how fast you run, they're right there, breathing down your neck. And the worst part, you wake up more exhausted than when you went to bed. So what's really going on here? Being chased is dream code for avoidance. Something in your waking life, an unresolved problem, an awkward conversation, that email you've been ignoring, is hunting you down. Your subconscious knows it, and instead of sending you a polite reminder, it drops you into a nightmare marathon. Thanks, brain. The chaser doesn't matter much. Bear, clown, your boss holding a stack of overdue reports, is not about them. It's about you. The dream is basically your mind yelling, Stop running and deal with your stuff. Because here's the twist. When you turn around and face whatever's chasing you in a dream, it often disappears. Avoidance keeps the monster alive. Confrontation makes it vanish. And if you think about it, it's kind of hilarious. Your subconscious could just tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, maybe fix that situation you've been ignoring." But no, it decides to throw you into a high-stakes chase scene straight out of Jurassic Park. That's dream logic for you. Subtle as a hammer, but usually spot on. Number 8, teeth falling out, the nightmare. That doubles as free dental horror. You're standing in front of a mirror in your dream, minding your own business, when suddenly, plink, a tooth falls out. Then another. And before you know it, you're spitting out molars like a broken Pez dispenser. It's gross, it's disturbing, and you wake up checking your mouth like you just left a bad dentist. So what's the deal? Well, in dream language, teeth represent stability and security. They're strong, rooted, and essential, literally part of how you hold it together. So when they start falling out, it's a big red flag from your subconscious saying, you're feeling weak, insecure, or totally out of control. Most often, this dream shows up during times of stress, fear, or uncertainty. Maybe your job feels shaky, maybe your relationships aren't stable, or maybe you're worried about money. And sometimes, it's as simple as your brain reminding you that you really should floss more often. Thanks for the guilt trip, subconscious. But here's the funny part. Out of all the ways your brain could represent stress, it picks the absolute grossest. Not a traffic jam. Not an empty fridge. Nope. Teeth falling out like marbles. It's dream logic at its finest. Dramatic, unsettling, and just the right amount of nightmare fuel to make sure you don't forget it in the morning. So next time you dream about losing your teeth, don't panic and book an emergency dentist. Instead, ask yourself, what's crumbling in my waking life? Because chances are, the dream isn't about cavities, it's about control. Number 7, losing hair. When your subconscious doubles as a ruthless fashion critic. Imagine this. You're brushing your hair in a dream and suddenly huge chunks start falling out. Or maybe you look in the mirror and see a bald patch where your glorious mane used to be. No offense to bald folks, it can look great. But in dreamland, this usually feels less Vin Diesel cool and more midlife crisis meltdown. Here's what's happening. Hair in dreams often symbolizes beauty, youth, and confidence. When it starts disappearing, it's usually not about shampoo, it's about self-esteem. Your subconscious is basically holding up a neon sign saying, hey, you're feeling vulnerable about how you look, how you're aging, or how people see you. But it's not always about vanity. Sometimes, hair loss dreams are about control. Just like with teeth, it's your brain's way of saying, something in your life is slipping through your fingers. Maybe you're stressed at work. Maybe you're worried about the future. Or maybe you've just binged too many TikToks, comparing yourself to strangers who all seem to have perfect skin and six-packs. The ironic part, these dreams can make you wake up actually checking your head in the mirror, just to make sure it's still there. And when you find everything intact, you sigh with relief. And then stress about why you had the dream in the first place. So losing hair in a dream doesn't mean you're doomed to baldness. It means you've got some insecurities to comb through. And unlike real hair, fixing that has nothing to do with conditioner. Number 6, drowning. The Stress Olympics, but with more splashing. You're in the water. At first, it seems fine. You're swimming, floating, maybe even enjoying it. But suddenly the waves get bigger, your arms get heavier, and no matter how hard you kick, you're sinking. You try to shout, but all that comes out is bubbles. Then, just as the panic peaks, you wake up gasping, heart racing, like you actually swallowed half a pool. So what's the meaning? drowning dreams scream overwhelm. They show up when you feel like life is burying you under responsibilities, emotions, or problems you can't handle. Work deadlines, family drama, bills piling up, your dog chewing your sneakers, whatever it is, your brain translates that pressure into water pulling you down. Here's the twist. Drowning isn't just about being out of control, like falling. It's about being smothered. It's the emotional version of holding too many grocery bags and realizing your car keys are in your pocket. You're struggling, overextended, and on the edge of collapse. And honestly, the subconscious could have picked a less terrifying metaphor, right? Like juggling too many pizzas. But no, your brain chooses fight the ocean until you die to get the point across. Thanks again, Dream Logic. The good news? Drowning dreams are your mind's dramatic way of telling you to breathe, slow down, and maybe drop a few of those grocery bags in real life. Because if your brain keeps scheduling midnight pool parties without your consent, it might be time to admit you're carrying way too much. Number 5. Fighting. Your brain's late night WWE. Match. You're dreaming, and suddenly you're in a fistfight. Maybe it's with your best friend, maybe it's with a total stranger, or maybe it's with some faceless character who looks like a video game glitch. Either way, you're throwing punches like you're auditioning for the next Rocky sequel. And then you wake up, sweaty and confused, wondering if you should apologize to someone in real life. So what's up with this one? Fighting dreams usually point to unresolved conflict. If you're scrapping with someone you actually know, it's often your subconscious saying, hey, you've got unfinished business with this person. It could be anger, resentment, or just that one thing they said 5 years ago that still annoys you. But here's where it gets interesting. If you're fighting a stranger, or worse, a faceless shadow figure, then it's not about them. It's about you. That's right. Congratulations. You're fighting yourself. Well, not literally, but symbolically. These dreams often mean you're struggling with an inner conflict, like making a tough decision, doubting yourself, or battling habits you can't shake. And let's be honest, it's kind of hilarious that your brain doesn't just say, hey, you've got issues. No, it sets up a full-on UFC cage fight in your sleep, with you as the main event. Thanks, subconscious, for the drama. Bottom line, fighting dreams are emotional sparring matches. Whether it's you versus a friend or you versus your own doubts, the message is clear. Something in your waking life needs resolution before the bell rings. Number 4. Being naked in public, the fashion show. Nobody asked for your walking into school, work, or maybe the grocery store. Everything seems normal. Until you look down and realize, uh-oh, you forgot your clothes. Yep, you're standing there in your birthday suit, exposed for everyone to see. And of course, nobody else seems to notice or care. But you're panicking like you just got caught trying to sneak into a movie theatre. So what does it mean? Naked in public dreams usually scream insecurity. It's your subconscious shining a big, embarrassing spotlight on feelings of vulnerability, shame, or fear of judgment. Basically, your brain is saying, you feel exposed in real life, so here's a nightmare fashion statement to make sure you don't forget. Maybe it's a work presentation you're nervous about. Maybe you're worried about what people think of you on social media. Or maybe you're just carrying that general anxiety of being misunderstood. The dream is your mind exaggerating those fears into the ultimate oops scenario. And here's the funny part. In real life, being naked is natural. But in a dream, suddenly it's a crime against humanity. That's dream logic for you. It takes your tiniest insecurities and blows them up into a full-blown comedy horror scene. So next time you dream about strutting down the street in your underwear, don't panic. You're not secretly auditioning for a reality show. You're just processing that deep, very human fear of being judged. In other words, dream. You isn't naked. Dream you is just really, really anxious. Number 3, pregnancy dreams, the plot twist. Nobody saw coming. Okay, this one's wild. You're dreaming, and suddenly, boom, you're pregnant. Maybe you're a woman, maybe you're a man, doesn't matter. Dream logic doesn't care about biology. 1 second, you're walking down the street. The next, you're picking out baby names like it's a casual Tuesday. So what does it mean? Don't worry, it's not always literal. Pregnancy dreams usually symbolize growth, change, or new beginnings. Think of it as your subconscious saying, hey, something new is developing in your life. It could be a new project, a relationship, or even a version of yourself that's still in the building phase. Here's the funny bit. Your brain could have just shown you planting a tree, right? Nice, simple, symbolic. But no, it decides to make you pregnant instead. Thanks again, subconscious, for the drama. And this dream isn't just for women. Men report it too. When it happens, it's usually less about actual babies and more about the idea of creating something important, a fresh chapter, a new responsibility, or the start of something meaningful. Basically, dream pregnancy is just your subconscious playing project manager. So if you've had this dream, don't run to buy diapers. Instead, ask yourself, what's new in my life? What am I nurturing right now? Because 9 times out of 10, this dream isn't about a baby, it's about your future. And your brain, as always, just chose the most dramatic metaphor possible. Number 2, death dreams, the end. That's actually a beginning. You're in a dream, and it happens, you die. Maybe it's peaceful, maybe it's dramatic, or maybe it's so gruesome you wake up sweating like you just watched a horror marathon. Either way, it's unsettling. Nobody wakes up from this one thinking, wow, what a refreshing nap. But here's the twist. Death dreams usually aren't about literal death. They're about endings, and more importantly, beginnings. Think of it as your subconscious hitting the reset button. You're closing a chapter in your life so a new one can open. Starting a new job, ending a toxic relationship, finally deciding to get a gym membership. Your subconscious is saying goodbye to the old you and hello to the upgraded version. It's dramatic, sure, but hey, that's dream logic. Now, if the dream is especially violent, like you're being chased off a cliff by a gang of clowns, then it might tie more into feelings of stress, fear, or lack of control. Throwback to our falling and chased dreams. But if the death is calm, it's usually less about doom and gloom and more about transformation. And honestly, it's kind of poetic. Your brain could just show you graduating or walking through a door. But no, it has to stage a whole dramatic Game of Thrones finale scene just to tell you, hey, big changes are coming. So next time you dream about dying, don't panic. Instead, ask yourself, what my life is ending and what new beginning is trying to be born? Number 1. Lost loved ones and symbolic dreams. When the subconscious gets personal. Now we're at the heavy hitters. One of the most emotional dreams people report is seeing a loved one who has passed away. Maybe they're just smiling at you, maybe you talk to them, or maybe they simply appear, silent but present. Either way, it feels real. You wake up with your heart pounding, half comforted, half shaken. So what does it mean? In most interpretations, these dreams are about grief, memory, and connection. Sometimes, it's your subconscious helping you process the loss, replaying old memories to find closure. Other times, it feels like they're visiting, reminding you they're still with you in spirit. And here's the beautiful part. Regardless of the explanation, the effect is the same. You're reminded of love, and that bond doesn't vanish just because someone is gone. But lost loved ones aren't the only symbolic dreams. Take snakes, for example. Depending on context, a snake can mean healing, ancient symbol of medicine, or hidden danger, because, well, it's a snake. See one peacefully in nature. Could be growth. See one in your bedroom. Your subconscious is probably screaming, danger. Someone in your life isn't what they seem. That's the thing about dreams. They're rarely literal. They're metaphors, dressed in costumes. Whether it's falling, fighting, drowning, or hugging someone you miss, your subconscious is always sending signals. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it shouts, but it's always trying to get your attention. So the next time you wake up from a bizarre dream, don't just laugh it off. Ask yourself, what was my brain really trying to say? Because behind the chaos, there's almost always a message. And sometimes, it's one you really need to hear.